I'm a 38-year-old man, and I've been married to my 35-year-old wife for 2 years now. She has a 16-year-old daughter from a previous marriage, but her ex was never really around. She raised her daughter completely on her own. Before we tied the knot, we were together for 3 years, so I feel like I know her pretty well. One of the things I always liked about her was how careful she was with money. Being a single mom, she'd had to hustle to make ends meet, so financial discipline became second nature to her. That actually meant a lot to me since I didn't grow up with much. My family was broke most of the time, so I've always appreciated people who know how to handle money wisely. Early in our relationship, my wife told me she'd been saving a substantial amount for her daughter's college education so that her daughter wouldn't have to rely on anyone else or get buried in student loans. But a few weeks ago, everything flipped. My wife came to me and said she had used up all of that money and now expected me to pay for her daughter's college tuition. I wasn't necessarily against the idea, I do earn enough, but I was really confused and concerned about what happened to all that money. It wasn't a few $1,000s either. She told me it was close to $100,000, which is a massive amount to just vanish. When I asked her directly where the money had gone, she told me it was because of a shopping addiction. But I had a hard time swallowing that. Before we even met, she always described herself as frugal, and that matched what I'd seen. Even after we started dating, she was never flashy with money. And people don't just develop a full-blown addiction overnight and blow through 6 figures without anything to show for it. There weren't any signs, no new clothes, no designer shoes or jewelry, no big-ticket electronics, not even beauty products. She couldn't give me a single receipt to back up her claim. That's when I knew she wasn't telling the truth. There was no way she spent that much just on shopping, and it was clear she was trying to mislead me. I tried to bring it up calmly, but she immediately got defensive and upset. She accused me of not trusting her and turned the conversation into a full-blown fight. No matter how I tried to get answers, she just stuck to her story and refused to admit anything else. Something about the whole thing felt seriously off, and I needed to know where the money had actually gone. My gut was telling me something shady was happening. To make matters worse, my stepdaughter was furious too. That college fund was supposed to be hers, and now it was gone. After her mom told her the truth, they started arguing, and she stopped speaking to her altogether. It was clear that if I wanted to restore any kind of peace in the house, I had to figure this out myself, because my wife wasn't going to come clean on her own. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I know it sounds bad, but one day while my wife was asleep and my stepdaughter was out, I logged into her bank accounts using the saved info on my laptop. She had 2 checking accounts, and I went through both. Just like I suspected, there were no charges from clothing stores or online retailers. Instead, almost all of the transactions were linked to a bunch of different restaurants. Now, my wife doesn't have any kind of eating disorder, so there was no reason she'd be spending that kind of cash on food. I looked up the restaurant names online, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary, which just made it all the more confusing. Desperate for answers, I decided to check her email. She usually used my laptop anyway because hers was old and slow, so I already had her email and password saved. Most of her messages were work-related or spam, and I was about to give up when I noticed she'd been getting emails from someone using the name Joker, clearly a fake or code name. That caught my attention. I opened a few of the messages and my jaw dropped. They mentioned that the restaurants had received the money and that she'd be getting it back soon. Then I saw another message just like it. I had no idea what exactly was going on, but it was clear this wasn't just some weird misunderstanding. My first thought was money laundering, but it didn't make sense. This was her own savings. Why would she be laundering her own money? Even stranger, it wasn't just 1 or 2 restaurants. There were at least 7 involved. That's when things took an even darker turn. Another new email popped up, this one from my stepdaughter. She mentioned going to one of those same restaurants and that he wasn't there. That was the final shock. My stepdaughter was somehow involved too. I panicked. I shut the laptop, grabbed my essentials, and left the house without saying a word. I drove straight to a friend's place. I didn't even try to explain, I just needed to get away and think. I contacted my lawyer right after and sent him screenshots of the emails and photos of my wife's card details just in case. I didn't fully understand what was happening yet, but I didn't want to risk getting dragged into something illegal. What broke me wasn't just the lies about the money. It was the fact that both my wife and stepdaughter were in on it and had been playing me. Pretending like the money had just disappeared, just so I'd feel sorry for them and step in to cover the cost. It was sickening. I was completely overwhelmed. I didn't even know where to start. I knew my wife would realize I was gone, so I turned my phone off and went for a long walk around the neighborhood to clear my head. When I came back and turned my phone on, there were missed calls and texts from her asking where I was. I ignored them. I spoke to my lawyer that same day and told him I wanted to move forward with a divorce. I know it probably sounds rushed, but I couldn't take any risks legally. Luckily, we'd kept our finances separate up to this point, and I was hoping that would make the divorce quicker and cleaner. She was served with the papers yesterday. While she'd been texting me on and off for a few days, she didn't seem too eager to find me. Her messages didn't sound concerned, which only confirmed my suspicion that she was hiding something and didn't care about her family anymore. But once she got served, that all changed. She started calling nonstop, trying to get a reaction out of me. I finally responded with a single text, saying I knew she was smart and she'd figure out why this was happening. She replied that all she wanted was a chance to explain everything. But honestly, I'm not sure I even want to hear it. But honestly, I don't think she deserves another chance, not anymore. She had every opportunity to tell me the truth, and she chose to cover it up. This isn't some little white lie, it's a massive betrayal. One that apparently involved my stepdaughter too. They were both playing me, and I can't just ignore that like it's no big deal. So, no, I didn't talk to her. Just like I said I wouldn't. I blocked her on everything. I don't care to hear her side of the story anymore. The fact is, both she and her daughter lied to me about something huge. We're talking about $100,000. That's not pocket change. And now that I think about it, I never really understood how she even managed to save that much while supporting herself and her daughter all these years. At this point, I'm almost certain that money didn't come from any honest source. She used to be a high school teacher, and as far as I know, they don't make anywhere near enough to save up $100,000. For a while, I assumed maybe it was inheritance money. But later I found out her parents passed away when she was still a kid, and she was raised by an aunt who only left her around $20,000. I really wish I had thought this all through sooner. I regret brushing off the financial red flags just because I was caught up in our relationship. I was so wrapped up in how good everything felt emotionally that I didn't stop to question how any of this added up. And now, here I am, completely blindsided and unsure of what to do next. Even though I want answers, I still can't bring myself to face her. Thankfully, my buddy has let me stay at his place without asking any questions. He even told me I don't have to worry about rent for now, though I offered to at least pitch in for groceries and utilities while I'm there. I don't know when or if I'll ever go back to the house. I don't really feel bad about walking out, especially since we were just renting anyway. How she plans to cover rent and bills on her own now is not my concern. That's her problem to figure out. My lawyer told me she has 30 days to respond to the divorce petition. If she doesn't respond within that window, then we get to proceed however we want, and the divorce will go through on our terms. I know it's out of my hands at this point, but part of me is desperately hoping she just ignores it. I don't want to see her, speak to her, or even hear her name again. It's not that my feelings disappeared overnight, I still love her on some level. But I can't trust her. Not anymore. When someone's shady with money, that's a major red flag for me. That's not something I can just overlook and move on from like it's no big deal. Update number 2, it's been 6 days since she got served. I had her blocked everywhere, but she found a way around that. She created a brand new email account and sent me a message. I didn't want to open it at first, part of me knew it'd only upset me further. But curiosity got the better of me, and I finally gave in and read it. Now I wish I hadn't. I'm still in shock, and honestly, I don't even know how to process this. I'm trying to wrap my head around what she said, but it's so far beyond messed up that I feel physically sick. I can't believe I married this woman without knowing any of this. None of it ever came up during our years together, and I never thought to look into her past. I just took her at her word. I trusted her. And now, here I am, completely blindsided and humiliated. I know I'm probably rambling, but I'm seriously struggling to process all this. I want to talk to someone, but the only person I want to talk to is the one who caused all this pain. In the email, she basically confirmed my worst fear. The money she'd saved wasn't from years of careful budgeting, it came from selling drugs. At the very high school where she used to teach. Yeah. You read that right. She was a dealer. Not just to students, but apparently to some of their parents too, since it was an expensive private school for rich families. On top of that, she sold off most of her aunt's jewelry to get the rest of the money. After she met me, she quit teaching and started working as an accountant. But clearly, the past didn't stay in the past. A few months ago, she reached out to an old contact from her drug dealing days. That friend helped her connect with several restaurants, which were actually fronts for laundering money. But then, like a bad movie, the guy ghosted her. Vanished without a trace. And just like that, all her money was gone. Her entire savings wiped out. She's still earning, but it's barely enough to survive, hence why she asked me for help. And get this, her daughter knew everything. Apparently, she's been involved since she was 13, helping her mom with handoffs. I don't even have words for how disturbing that is. And she's still helping, trying to track down that friend who disappeared. According to my wife, she only did what she had to do to survive as a single mom. She said she wanted a clean slate once we got married, which is why she reached out to the guy again to try and move the money legally, I guess. She claimed she was eventually going to come clean to me, but didn't know how I'd react and was terrified of losing me. She apologized. Said she was sorry for everything. Wrote a bunch of emotional paragraphs saying she never wanted to lie or do anything illegal again, and begged me to give her a second chance. I don't know what kind of fantasy world she's living in where she thinks I'd ever go back after hearing all this. She literally admitted to being a drug dealer and she thinks we can just sweep that under the rug and go back to being a happy couple? She's lucky I haven't called the police. And honestly, I'm still considering it. I'm saying yet on purpose, because I'm not ruling anything out. What she did was disgusting. And unforgivable. I grew up dirt poor too. I know what it's like to struggle. And yeah, I could have taken shortcuts. I could have sold drugs or gotten involved in sketchy stuff to get by. But I didn't. I chose the honest route, even when it was hard. What she did at selling drugs to teens, while raising a daughter that age, is vile. There's just no excuse for it. You can judge me all you want, but nothing justifies what she did. And on top of all that, she lied to me for 5 years. Even if I could somehow forgive her for her past, I couldn't forgive her for hiding it for so long. I did everything I could to be a good husband. I treated her daughter like my own. And this is what I get in return. Maybe neither of them deserve me or my forgiveness. I haven't passed this information to my lawyer yet, but I will once I calm down. Right now, my head is spinning. I can't believe the woman I married used to be a drug dealer. And I was completely in the dark the whole time. She lied to me for years before we even got married, and now she wants me to just forgive and forget? I know I keep repeating myself, but I think I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It just doesn't feel real. But it is. Unfortunately, it is. Update 3, today, my wife showed up at my friend's house. She'd apparently been going from friend to friend trying to track me down and finally landed here. I had no intention of speaking to her, just like I said, but she refused to leave. She stood outside the door, saying she wasn't going anywhere until she got to talk to me. I didn't want to involve the police because this isn't even my place, and I didn't want to drag my friend into the middle of it. So eventually, I agreed to hear her out, but I promised myself nothing she said would change my decision. I wasn't going to cave. Out of respect, my friend stepped out to give us privacy. As soon as he left, she started apologizing again, but then shifted straight into asking for help. She said I couldn't abandon her, not now. She brought up our vows and told me this was the time she needed me most. She said she was struggling to make rent and bills, and that she didn't know how she'd afford college for her daughter. She told me it wasn't just about money, she missed me. She still loved me. I'd be lying if I said that didn't hit me. For a moment, I felt something. A small part of me actually wanted to let it all go and go back to the way things were. But then I remembered that email. I remembered everything she admitted to. And it brought me right back to reality. I couldn't forgive her. I couldn't forget any of it. I told her point blank that I wasn't coming back. The divorce was happening, and if she had any sense at all, she'd let it happen quietly. After what she did, she had no right to ask anything of me. And then I just broke. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I'd been holding back all this anger and pain for too long, and it all came flooding out. I told her how deeply betrayed I felt, how she destroyed the life we had. There was no fixing this. No walking it back. I told her she had so many chances to be honest with me, and she chose to lie instead. I reminded her how I treated her daughter like my own flesh and blood, how I bent over backward to be a good husband and stepfather, and how all they did in return was lie and use me for money. She tried to jump in and argue, but I wouldn't let her get a word in. I just kept going until I'd said every last thing I needed to say. I could feel tears welling up, but I wasn't going to let her see that. Not this time. She looked crushed. And honestly, I think she really did love me. But none of it matters anymore. I can't be with someone who lies so easily, who hides something so massive and thinks she deserves a second chance. Eventually, she left, still begging me to come back. She said I didn't even have to give her money, just that she wanted me beside her. I just told her goodbye and slammed the door in her face. Then I finally let myself cry. Not just a couple of tears. I broke down completely. I don't think I've ever done anything that painful in my life. It was brutal, but it had to be done. I know I'll miss her. I'll miss my stepdaughter too. But nothing I do can change what's already happened. She is who she is. and I have to move forward with who I am. Afterward, when my friend got back, I finally told him everything. I figured he deserved to know, especially after letting me crash at his place for so long. He was shocked, just like everyone else would be. Most of my friends always thought my wife was this quiet, sweet, soft-spoken woman. I thought the same thing for years. But clearly, I was wrong. Update 4: It's been 3 weeks since I filed for divorce. A few days ago, my wife finally responded to the petition, and she's not contesting it. I'm guessing it's because she can't afford a lawyer, and honestly, after everything she confessed, she'd be out of her mind to try and fight this in court. I'm relieved she didn't push back. I don't want a drawn-out legal battle. I just want to move on and erase this whole mess from my life. I want to forget about her, wipe her completely from my memory and my heart, and start over. I haven't reported her to the police yet, but I did give my lawyer a copy of that email where she basically admitted to selling drugs while working at a school, and even involving her daughter. That's a serious criminal offense, and my lawyer thinks I should report it just to protect myself legally. And honestly, I probably will. I just need a little time to sort through all the emotions first. I don't want to destroy her daughter's future, but at the same time, I can't ignore something this serious just because I feel guilty. It's been a hell of a couple of weeks. I'm exhausted and still trying to figure out how to heal from all this. But I know I'll get through it eventually. With God's grace, I'll rebuild. I'll get my life back on track once this divorce is final. If you're reading this, keep me in your prayers. I could really use them right now.